Okay, I believe I am on live. Yay, Lars? I think so. Yeah, okay, great, great. Thank you all for attending, and I'm going to carry on teaching the relationship of the soul and the earth, and how that really is a bit of a, it's more of a surprise to humanity than it is an expected scenario, that humanity has to go through all of this in order to attain their soul, or learn what it's like to be so overtaken by all the things that it takes to overtake the soul, to weaken the soul, to keep it from evolving, to help it manifest inertia, to stay in an astral illusion, a lot of conspiracy illusions, a lot of stuff. Never really know the truth. And the soul is the process in which you are able to receive the truth, reflect on it, and gain wisdom. And as you develop your wisdom by developing your soul, you develop discernment and discrimination. And through the process of developing discernment and discrimination, you start taking responsibility, the ability to respond. And you really don't know what irresponsibilities you are manifesting at this time, simply because of the lack of consciousness that would be found in the soul. Yeah, so it's a symptom. And the symptom of the soul is for everyone. It's for the nation, it's for the planet, it's for everyone. But we happen to have a president who, just like anybody else, has a soul and has a personality, and he has a lot of other things. And as a Buddha, as Jesus, you know, I'm pretty much a doctor of evolution and humanity and the creation of this earth. So when it comes down to the soul, I can very easily know exactly what it is that that person is, you know, what level they are, who they are, and the qualities or characteristics that are expressing in the world. That has to happen simply because they carry those aspects, those attributes. And what I'm talking about is the 7 rays. There's a science based on the reality of the existence of God. And God exists in the form of love and wisdom, yeah, and conscious activity, goodwill and action. And those qualities, those characteristics, those attributes are manifested in the full manifestation of the 7 rays. So it would take me a very long time, and it would take you to have a long of attention span to maintain the ability to be a student who could receive the teachings of the 7 rays in full. So all I could do is point them out and share with you, you know, from my point, you know, because I am the scientist of the 7 rays. I am also the planetary logos, and in that I'm responsible for these 7 rays. And when they do express, there are symptoms, and when they express negatively as soulless qualities, they have certain characteristics and powers that come from the dark lodge, a darker side of reality, because in reality everything is psychic. The soul is an incredibly psychic reality, and the ability to keep the soul from manifesting is a very strong psychic astral reality, yeah, a lower psychic reality. And it manifests into our lives. It carries out influences on the earth in all minerals and vegetable and animal, every single level of all the species of this earth, including the weather and good or bad luck. You know, all of that is manifested through these energies. Yeah. So the more that we are of right relationship with God, and the more that we're expressing these rays in ways that are co-creative with God, then we actually become caretakers of these things, these animals, the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, you know, all the kingdoms, yeah, because we become higher and higher levels of human being, and that human being has psychic abilities that come from these rays. So on the lower side, they are very astral, and they're very harmful to both the planet, all the species on the planet, and our future, our relationship to who we are today and how we're going to turn out later in the future. It's all really based on the aspects of expression of the 7 rays. But if you don't really know any of this science, and you don't know that the soul is all 7 rays, each one of the rays is a direct expression of soul. Yeah, so every human being has a soul. So every human being has one of those 7 rays. You may have the first ray. You may have the second ray. You may have the third ray, or the fourth ray, or the fifth ray, 6th or 7th. Yeah, and then you have a personality, and that definitely is a different ray than your soul. You know, and it's any one of the 7 rays. And then you have a mental body ray. Yeah, and that is any one of the 7 rays. And you have an emotional body ray, and that's any one of the 7 rays. And you have a physical body ray, and that's any one of the 7 rays. And then you have the rays to the environment that surrounds you. Yeah, and those rays express upon you. So they're literally a part of your 7 rays. Yeah, if you're living in the South and you happen to have friends that are very, very 6th ray and very attuned in certain rays, then you will find yourself led and driven by those rays as the strongest rays of influence in your life, rather than your own personal rays. Yeah, you're just kind of living through life, just bouncing around, trying to make sense of it as you are most impressed upon by the influence of outside forces, that are happening around you. It could be your school, your loyalty to the school, your peers, your mom, your dad, any outside force outside yourself, including the physical environment, whether or not you live in the icy slopes of wherever or in the calm forest of wherever, all that has an effect upon your rays and how they are manifesting your own personal ray in relationship to your soul, and how that integrates into your mind and your emotions and your physical rays. And that's a lot of work. There's a lot of science that goes on here. And there's a lot that will happen as time goes on. But as a scientist and as a doctor of this, I'm just illustrating and expressing, how those rays work. So we are influenced by our own personal rays, and we're influenced by the rays outside of us. And if we don't know God, then we're not very influenced by the second ray. The second ray is not what we get from mom or dad or our uncle or our cousin. We think we're getting love from everybody. But you don't know love until you know God. God is love. And it's so superior to everything else. It's all inclusive of all the 7 rays. It's the creator of the 7 rays. It's the directing force of the soul. It's the only energy that influences the soul is the second ray. And no matter what ray you have in your soul, 7th ray, 5th ray, whatever, it literally has a second ray flowing through it, which is God. It's God's love. And that also happens down into your mental body. If you have God in your life, then you have God's love. And that's in your mind. And that's in also your personality ray. Or it could be in your emotional ray. Or it could be in your physical ray. So in the beginning, usually it's in the physical ray. It has something to do with a change in your life, that you might have died in an accident and you come back and you meet God, and it's very strange and very your own individual experience. Now, many people have had the experience of coming back from death, but that's a physical experience of God touching you on a physical level, and you no longer have a physical body, and you're taken out of your body, and you're having a conversation with God, and you move through what's known as life, in the heavenly realm. And then you're brought back. So that could be a very quick awakening influence of the second ray. Can you fix that? Yeah, just turn it off. And then, so it's God is the influence of the soul. So there is no other time that the soul comes into the body other than through God. So a lot of times it happens by a close call with death, or death itself and coming back. people are reformed. They're transmuted. They're transformed. And they come back more spiritual. They come back less devoted to the outside, external situations that used to impress upon them, that I talked about earlier, in the rays on the outside form, impressing upon you. And when you die, those are gone. Even your physical body, your personality, all the rays of your very form that you're trying to deal with are gone. And the only thing you have is your soul. And your soul leaves your body with God. And that's always second ray. It doesn't matter if you're fifth ray, sixth ray, seventh ray, or what. That's why it works like that, because God is only the second ray. So you meet God, and that changes you, and you come back as a minister for that person that you met, who is very different than all the people you know on earth. And you know that God is for everyone, and that God is always there, and everything you've ever heard about God is true. So that's your ministry. You have faith. You have a relationship with God, and that's in your physical body. And if you're in that process enough to have an awakening, which means you don't just kind of like hang out and come back immediately, but you're there long enough for it to instill in you a memory, great influences of teaching that come into you, and that reaches your emotional body, because you could have gone there as an atheist. And now you got to get past your atheism as you're meeting God, so that you may not make it through that process. You may find yourself in all kinds of weird situations and pulled right back into your body. But you still do get God, and now you cannot be an atheist. You can try, but it's hard, and simply because God is an element, and you are an element. And when the element of God enters you, you are changed, and you are now one with the element of God. And you start awakening, that light that's inside of you starts awakening, and to God, and whatever that means, because relationship with God is dependent upon whether or not you have that relationship in all your vehicles, all the way up to your soul ray, And there are all kinds of difficulties in personality and in the rays of the mind and the emotions and all those things being separate and having their own way of view, their own way of understanding things. Your mind could see something, you all could walk into a theater, watch that movie and come out and talk about it, and as you're talking, you're finding, this person sees it a different way than I did. Or read a book or have a conversation with someone, and then have a conversation with someone else and see whether or not that turned into gossip, and the same information gets turned around, whether or not people have a different view simply because their rays are different and they're moved differently inside their body. And it's very, 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 very hard to have a collective consciousness view. And that view comes from the second ray. It comes from understanding, and it's difficult, but every single human being is actually made up of 99% second ray, love, So it's a matter of integrating and fulfilling that amount of love inside your body, taking the place of all the separate influences that you have in your mind and your emotional body and your personality and all those areas. So Mr. Trump is no different. Here I am. I'm a doctor in this, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of understanding of if I take a person and I deal with them in relationship to the rays that they are in this life. And Mr. Trump happens to have a third ray soul, and he has a fourth ray personality. Now, that means nothing to you, but as an esoteric practitioner, we know a lot of characters who have that particular soul ray package. Not a lot in the number of humanity or the number of people that you may know, but in relationship to hell and relationship to demonic processes that bring about war and injustice and economic demise, all these kind of things. It's the ray, third ray, fourth ray, that does that. And that's the singular ray of an individual called Lucifer. Now, you can study this all the way esoterically and look for these rays: soul ray, third ray, fourth ray, personality. And as you study it, you'll be able to see the expressive interpretation of the being known as Lucifer. Yeah, and Lucifer is, on the physical plane, is a direct channel for Satan. So Satan, Lucifer, same being. Yeah, it's just that one is on the physical plane and the other one is on a terrestrial, or a plane in which doesn't have physical limitations. It's more magic. It's more an externalization of extreme demonic forces. Yeah, and without any limitation to it. Yeah, the Satan process is. But Lucifer is a personality of expression, and it carries a personality of expression through the rays. Yeah, so I'm going to just show this. This is a esoteric psychology, and called Tapestry of the Gods. I don't recommend it, yeah, because the guy who wrote it, he doesn't know enough to actually write it. But what he did was that he compiled a great deal of information based on the rays to all of the vehicles. And those things are correct. It's his insinuations as to not mentioning the monad, at all in these books, and taking only the relationship of personality and soul and limiting it to that, and not being able to witness the fact that we haven't had anybody incarnated that we know that have incarnated with personality and soul other than the avatar. Yeah. So he puts people, personality people who are not in the hierarchy, but people who are actually down in the first, or maybe higher, up halfway through the first initiation. Yeah, and that's all of humanity, and those are really high people. That's like Einstein, Socrates, Plato, people like that. People who we know in history that have very evolved ways of thinking, more than they are in the ways that they are at the time. So these are what we think of as advanced souls. Where I come from, that's kind of comical, but we deal with it. We deal with it, because this is all a symptomatic situation. You have to forgive them because they do not understand. This is a science, and until you get way past the third initiation, you can't sit in class and receive direct teachings in relationship to the rays, because you have these false prophets that are expressing these teachings that you can't get above. So when you start studying the rays, you're only going to find people who are limited, according to Alice Bailey or Blavatsky or other channelers back in the early 30s and 40s. And those people just did not have a relationship to Jesus. None of them had a relationship to Jesus. And they literally took Jesus out of the picture, eliminated him as the avatar, and made a whole story of series of relationship to the hierarchy. So everything based on the books that's involved with the rays have completely diluted information around the hierarchy, because all the people who were expressing it was not in the hierarchy. They expressed as though they were in the hierarchy, but they weren't. And their relationship was that they were just barely above a first degree initiate, which is a pretty intelligent person, but has great deal problems with psychicism. And depending on their ray package, they would have impressions coming to them, but their teacher would be Lucifer. So the difficulty of you delving into these kind of teachings is that you're going to find direct teachings coming from Lucifer to block you from Jesus Christ and keeping you from knowing Maitreya. So it's Jesus and Maitreya is the biggest compounded negative force. It's not put out as negative, but it's put out by blocking them from the truth. People knowing that Jesus and Maitreya are the same person, and all of that information is completely left to the side because no one of this group has a soul. You know, even though they're first degree initiates, does not mean that they have a soul integrated. As a practitioner, we understand a soul has to be integrated in order for it to be a soul. If it's in process, then it is a person who is developing soulful qualities, and this takes 10 to 100 lives to get past the very first initiation. And it's a struggle because 9/10 of the time you get hit by recruiters that come from Lucifer or Lilith. And if you're a female, then you're on one side with Lilith. If you're a male, you're on the other side with Lucifer, and they're drawing you into a bunch of quasi-psychic phenomenon teachings that are completely blocking you from the truth, but they're filling you up with half-truths. Yeah, so that's a real dilemma when it comes down to these studies. So my relationship to helping you through this, just by understanding the rays, is to get you to just understand that the expression of the third ray and fourth ray, studying it is an expression of part of truth. Yeah, if I read it and show this to you, so you'll better understand who we are dealing with. Yeah, because it's difficult to have a personality expression of many diverse ways to happen in a person's life that fit the expression of specific race. Yeah. A person can say, oh, I believe I have a second ray soul, and I believe I have a fourth ray personality. But then you get out the book, and you look up second ray soul, fourth ray personality. You don't have any of those characteristics, nor did you as a child, nor do you right now. But you have you like those kind of people, But you have no idea to interpret what your true soul and your true personality is, because it's just not the discernment and discrimination that a person has yet in order to gain that ability. Yeah. So this guy has a third ray soul and a fourth ray personality, and in an esoteric view, that's the personality from heaven that turned everything around. Yeah. And also on a heavenly view, in this time cycle, there are different time cycles on a heavenly view as to which demonic aspect of Satan expresses on earth at a certain time. And this demonic aspect that expresses at this point in time is called Arhaman, the demon. And Arhaman is it changes metamorphically through time. Yeah, so it's the potentiality of recruiting or changing the earth in its evolution. So at this point in time, it's to keep us from ecology and to force us into economical disaster and a lack of ability to understand anything that comes down to true logic. Yeah, just science or circumstances that come up, a third ray soul, fourth ray personality has absolutely no ability, none whatsoever, to figure out problems that are actually happening in the world, in the present world, at any given time. They are absolutely incapable of doing it. But their thing is that they believe they are. And they're the most prideful person on the planet. And they think that they're the most intelligent person and they can answer all questions perfectly, and they read from no book, but they listen to small-minded people, because those small-minded people have a channeling effect that's coming from that demon, and they reciprocate by expressing hate and violence and anger and prejudice and bias that fits perfectly the mindset of this third ray, fourth ray person. Yeah, so they can't see beyond that. And last thing in the world they would do is deal with ecology, and the one thing that they would want to do is to corrupt people, turn them into corruption, and a lot of times without them even knowing it. So let me just look at this for you, and this is third ray soul, fourth ray personality, and we're just going to look at the first parts of it. Because he doesn't get, this is the science of the integration of the soul. So you got to kind of go, you can only go so far because the person doesn't get that far, So they may be in phase 1, and that's it till the day they die, and then they come back and they're back in phase 1. And they keep doing it, and they keep doing it, and they keep doing it. And they have similar rays, but not the same rays. But they have the same problem, And it works itself out according to time, and we all get different rays every time we reincarnate because it's a different time. And we have no idea we're here for God's plan and God's rays to fulfill God's plan. So we're giving the opportunity to do so. They're in us, So this is what this guy gets. This is very rare because not many people get a third ray, fourth ray. I mean, Hitler, had a first ray, fourth ray. Okay. So look at the first phase. And this is the phase where the personality has conflict in relationship to the soul as it begins integrating into the body, mind, the emotions, personality. It has to integrate by moving the soulful quality of the soul's ray. In his case, it's third ray. So that third ray in a soulful quality, right now, it's in the glamour quality. So it's expressing from birth on, it was born, like we're not talking silver spoon, We're talking platinum, carte blanche, And this is 3-4. If you're 3-4, that's exactly what you're going to be. You're not going to be a bum on the street. That's impossible. You would never be given a 3-4. It's a very rare aspect. And because you're on the demonic side and all material things and sex magic is involved with you, then all of that stuff is handed to you like cake, like it's free, like it's expected. So this person's in the phase of conflict, pure soul energy conflicts with the personality force. The essential conflict between the Ray 3 soul and the Ray 4 personality is the struggle between acute, spirituality-inspired, intellectual comprehension and manipulation of energy, and a mind-obscuring personal captivity to fluctuating and conflicted psychological, physical states. Now, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but where I'm from, it makes a whole lot of sense, because the ray, I understand the ray, So what it's expressing here is that this is a big conflict for the personality, And since personality is harmony through conflict, in other words, everything's got to be beautiful. The person next to him has to be beautiful, The outcome of a situation has to be beautiful. You're not going to go against your father or this or that because that would be disharmony, So you got to go along with it. And this is why it's a ray package of Lucifer, because he's the perfect channel to go with the evil forces that come with demon, with Satan, So it's third ray, perfect channel, comes flowing in, and third ray is the evil spirit, third ray, Or it could be the Holy Spirit, In this case, with the lower aspects of it, then it can only be expressed as the evil spirit, So in his case, the soul personality integration process from the perspective of consciousness identified primarily with the third ray soul, it will be the task of the third ray soul to render the fluctuating fourth ray personality more reasonable and intelligent. The third ray soul gazes at all life phenomena as from a philosophical distance. The constant vicissitudes of the personality are not a matter of any significant interest. And yet the soul is frustrated in its attempt to master the world of thought and manipulate various environments. The soul wishes to think with a pure form of intellectuality, undisturbed by changes of mood, an unpredictable alternation of excessively positive or negative attitudes. It must teach the personality to conform to dictates of reason despite ambivalent feelings. It must teach the value of logical consistency to personality which almost prides itself on temperamental disposition to be illogical. A more cautious, provident, far-seeing way of living is what is required. And toward this end, the intelligent soul must guide its rebellious, rather unmanageable personality. Yeah? So imagine, the reason why Lucifer has a third-ray soul and a fourth-ray personality, because God is trying to change him. It's God's rays in this character, yeah? And God is trying to change him. The only way you're going to change such a demonic being that's creating so much harm and through humanity is through the Holy Spirit. So he's given the Holy Spirit, which is, if he's in a body, he is persecuted. He is overwhelmed because God does exist. And God's in him. Yeah? And God is changing things. And any life that Lucifer takes, Lucifer is being judged. Yeah? But it all depends on whether or not society supports this lower side of him getting what he wants. Yeah? And just fulfilling that. So it goes to soul personality integration process. The third ray pressure toward integration will be experienced by the fourth ray personality as a demanding intellectual energy, intruding unwelcoming upon a life of spontaneity and expressivity. For it is commonly believed, especially by the individual with a fourth ray personality, that intellectual thought interferes with natural, all expression. Thus, the person consciousness of such an individual has no desire to engage in pure intellectualism or in theoretical abstraction. Yeah? So he's not going to listen to doctors. He's not going to listen. He can't. It's impossible, literally impossible for him to listen to Fozzie and take it in, you know, and agree to it. He can't. It's literally impossible because he has no intellectual ability. Yeah, all he's got is pride. You know, and then he has what he says. I have instincts. Yeah, I have instincts, and they tell me gut feeling. They tell me this is a hoax. Don't put on a mask. You know, take hydrocortisone or whatever. The personality is frustrated merely by the thought of having to think about everything, which is precisely what the third ray soul would have it do. Instead, the personality seeks to be inspired. It has virtually no desire for mental consistency. Yet despite its protests and rebellion, the personality slowly begins to find the preoccupation with self-expression dissatisfying. And this is at the point where he's not even at that yet, you know. It's quite a ways from there, yeah. He's at a place to where it's more like we have this little thing here. This is our man's expression right now. Submersion in personal dramatics. Discontinuity and lack of self-discipline which interfere with thoughtful approach to truth. A rebellion against disciplined life of the mind. A loose analogical, free associative thinking inaccurate and not exact. Beliefs and opinions compromised for the sake of a peaceful, tension-free personal life. Yeah? Hey, you've got a virus. It's coming. You better do something. It's a hoax. I'm going to go play golf. Not a problem. What you talking about? It's a hoax. You're mean. Why are you saying that? You're mean. I just love this guy. Yeah, and then personal moodiness and temperamentalism, pessimism, worry, and lack of confidence. This is our president, but this is just showing you why we see all this. You know, these are truly his expressions. He really does have a soul, yeah? And just like everybody else, he has a personality. But what his problem is that he doesn't know that Christ is on earth. And Christ is increasing the amount of soul by overshadowing the President of the United States. Yeah. So that is going to make many changes in the process of him being able to get everybody to believe him. Because that's his thing. On this lower side, he has to get everybody to believe him because that's where harmony sits. Spasmodic activity under alternating influences called rajas. Preoccupation with personal beauty and appeal. Aversion to planning. Disruption of carefully created plans through thoughtless spontaneity and improvisationary Twitter, inspirational, in a moment Twitter. I mean, really, this is really old stuff. You know, we're not pointing at anybody. Yeah, we're not pointing at anybody. But if you want to know the truth, there's a way. There's a way, and the hierarchy has a science that helps us understand ourselves and the world around us. I could do the same thing with a nation. I could do the same thing with a state. I can do the same thing with anything, a dog, a cat. I can do all of that with all of them with complete understanding of all things that's going on, yeah? That's a caretaker. That's what happens when you're in the hierarchy. You have a science of this understanding, yeah? And then you can help. You can help move attributes in a direction that they need to be, yeah? And you don't really know. You know, you get upset, you know, that people behave the way they do, but you can't understand why they do until you enter through the hierarchical teachings. Yeah. Okay, preoccupation with personal beauty and appeal. His orange hair and his orange face. You know what I mean? How long does he have that lady on the side, you know, before he comes out? You know, doing his hair and everything. He's got a girl sitting on the side. You know, purple. He gets purpler and purpler. I mean, orange. And to choose all colors when you're Lucifer, you know, to choose all colors, to choose orange is like he's feeling at home, you know. Makes him feel comfortable. Not us, but it makes him feel comfortable. Aversion to planning. Yeah, have we noticed that? Disruption of carefully created plans. Mr. Fozzie, what are you talking about? To thoughtless spontaneity and improvisationary, inspirational, in-the-moment living, personal improvidence, and I don't know what that word is, disruptively confronting everyone. A frequently self-indulgent, artistic temper, unsuited to the demands of business and commerce. And we all found that out, you know, because the reason why he doesn't pay taxes is because he doesn't make money. Yeah? He's using the United States of America to build his buildings, you know, fund everything. Yeah? And he's probably got stuff with China and other countries where he's building and doing things. But, you know, every time he goes bankrupt and every time he says no and then, you know, he doesn't pay taxes and he loses all this money and all these people who helped build this thing for him lost too. Everybody is sucked up by this guy. Yeah? Yeah. All for his, you know, for his ego. Oh, look, I built the Trump Tower. Beautiful, beautiful. My wife, beautiful, beautiful. My daughters, beautiful, beautiful, you know. My son, beautiful, beautiful, you know. You couldn't be happier. Mar-a-Lago, oh, beautiful, most beautiful, yeah, yeah. And then he gets to Washington and he goes, boring, not so pretty. I will remodel this. Yes, all gold inside. Yeah, all gold. Yeah, yeah. And the plane, well, it's nothing compared to mine, but it'll do. Yeah. I don't know if he remodeled it. I imagine it's all gold inside there too. Yeah. Gold toilet tissue rolls and what a wonderful guy. So anyway, that's the process when you're dealing with this. Now, consider when I said that we're influenced by outside forces outside ourselves. We have our own soul, rays, and all that. We have outside forces by ourselves. And let's say you're a Catholic. Well, you got the Pope, and the Pope has rays. Yeah. And if you pray within and to the Pope, then you're bringing those rays directly to you, and that's going to move you. And if you believe in any other process, well, now you got to go to the Catholic Church, and you got to sit in with that priest, and the rays are sitting in that priest. Yeah. But none of this has a soul. Yeah. If it had a soul, it would awaken you to the fact the priest is gay and a pedophile. And the Pope is a liar, and he's actually recruiting you into Luciferian ceremonies, and giving you pagan worship to the goddess and not God. The goddess, the mother of God. Get out. Give me a break. That's as Arhaman as you can get. But you're not given any principles of understanding for education. You're not told the names of angels. You're not told to fight in hell and in heaven. You're not told any of this stuff. Yeah? Because the Catholic Church says it's for them to study and for them to interpret and for this kind of shit to go on. Yeah? And if you're a Hebrew, well, you can't do that, because only your, head priest, the rabbi, knows all this stuff, because once you get to a certain point, you're in trouble. You're in danger. Don't go any further. Yeah? I don't know. They say, that's what they say. Yeah? Don't go any further. You got to go through the rabbi. Then the rabbi will tell you where you can go and what you can study and what you can do. Because there's framework, a process. You cannot find the Messiah. Jesus is in there. The further you look, you're going to find the Messiah. The biggest rabbi, the oldest rabbi, the last big rabbi, the Messiah walked into his living room. Scared the crap out of him. Yeshua. Yeah? He freaks completely out. So freaked out, he has to be the person to tell all the Hebrews that we blew it. Yeah? Jesus is the guy. Yeah? How are they going to treat my family now? How are they going to treat anybody once I say this? So I'm going to wait until I die. Wait until after I die. Wait until after this other guy dies. I don't want everybody to get in trouble. He's so compassionate. He's really a good guy. He wouldn't have had that experience. Yeah? But he can feel what hell's going to be reaped from this. Yeah? Everybody in the Hebrew nation is going to go, lie, lie, lie. You made it up. You misinterpreted the note. It's not true. It's da-da-da-da. Well, we can't talk to him. We're just listening to the son, or we're listening to some of his students, So it really leaves doubt in the Hebrew area. And it shouldn't. This is their biggest guy. Yeah? Yeah? And that's the energy. It's the energy. He's dead. Yeah? He's not radiating his soul. He's not radiating his activity. Yeah? You'd have to have great faith and understanding to continue flowing with them. Yeah? And they don't. So they turn to the other rabbis, and their aura goes off into their mom and their dad and their allegiance. Yeah? And that keeps them from God. Keeps them from God. That's crazy. It's insane. But this whole thing is about keeping people from God. This whole thing. And it's not a conspiracy. It's just truth. Just is the truth. Yeah. So when you got someone like this guy doing what he's doing, And we're watching the fact that, oh my God, he's such a big liar, and he steals, and he's corrupt, and he's a molester and a rapist, and he's a pedophile, and everybody who's associated with him is going to prison because of corruption. Yeah. And a lot of people think he should go to prison, because of his corruption. Yeah. But because he has these ray packages, a third-ray soul. Imagine, third-ray soul. That's the evil spirit on the level of the soul. And if you're a person like that, you don't have a soul in the third ray, but you have a strong evil spirit in that position. A strong evil spirit. And the evil spirit is what creates Maya. 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 Maya, man. Maya is the worst thing you'll ever imagine. Yeah? Maya is when a horrible force. I mean, it's worse than any nature force you would ever imagine. Worse than any nuclear bomb you would ever imagine. Because the outcome to create a nuclear bomb is created by Maya. Yeah? Having a nuclear bomb is created by Maya. Yeah? The existence of them. Yeah? And then there is the creation in Maya is the ability to create a web. A web. Yeah? You put a web out. And then you catch people. You catch nations. You catch. And you get them in your web. And all of a sudden, they're freaked out. They go nutty. The evil spirit, which used to be some Holy Spirit in them, turns. No matter what nation you're from, no matter who you are in the human race, with this guy, he could turn you. He can turn you. Yeah? And he's turning people. From the lowest of the lows, to all of humanity. He's turning people. Yeah? And he's turning it in a way to where it is planetary destruction, not just in a form of a nuclear war or a form of, because those are all physical kind of things we can all just go, wow, that makes sense. But to pull off a nuclear war is pretty hard to do, so the chance of that is pretty low. But what will happen is environmental destruction. Yeah. We are on a time, a very specific time. Yeah. And we have to slow down and prepare for the melting of the Arctic ice caps. Yeah. We have to really slow down and prepare. Yeah. We have to learn minimalism. We have to get our shit together. We need to move from locations. Get ourselves right. Because it's not a matter of the ice melting and the sea going up. It's a matter of the heat. We've gone up 4 degrees. 4 degrees is not a lot, you'd think, huh? It is if you're in Phoenix. And it's already 110. And now it's 114. And next year it'll be 120. Record highs, record highs, record highs. Yeah? What happens when it does that? And it's going to do that. Las Vegas, Palm Springs, Mojave Desert, many places in America. All the way from that location going all the way to the east. Get really hot. Yeah? And that's, if those temperatures go up, and it gets really weird because in August we get snow, we get, tornadoes, we get all kinds of stuff that ain't supposed to be happening. We get them, and we're getting a lot of them. Yeah? We're getting floods like crazy, and we're getting a lot of them. Yeah? All kinds of major changes are happening. But the worst one is heat. Yeah? Heat is going to kill masses of people. Heat is going to dry up cities. Yeah? Imagine you've got a heat of 120 5 months out of the year. 5 months. Not just kind of like up and down, 90, and then 100, and then 115. Woo, that's really hot. But imagine it spiking at 120 and popping between 120 and 105. Yeah, long periods of time. Now, most people today cannot afford $500, $600, $700, $800 a month for an electric bill if they have to use their air conditioning. Yeah. So that's, in truth, that's where it's going to happen. People are not going to be able to afford their air conditioner that 24 hours a day, which it requires, because at nighttime it's 105. At daytime it's 115 to 120. And this is 2035, 2050 on. Yeah? It is going to happen. Yeah? We can't make an air conditioner on planet Earth or anything like that. It's just going to happen. So we have to think about this. We have to prepare ourselves. Yeah? Don't jump to the gun thinking we're going to have a nuclear war. We're on the edge, yeah, but what's really going to happen is that we're going to deal with an enormous destructive natural forces, mainly focused upon weather. Yeah? And the worst one is going to be heat. In all countries, it's going to be heat. Yeah? So we need to really focus. We need to put our time right. Yeah? We don't have time for this stuff. Yeah? We don't have time for 4 years. What happened when Trump became president? Within the first month, he said, I am not attending the Ecological Forum. We have pulled out of the Paris talks. We will have nothing to do with it. It's a hoax. Then what happened when the virus came along? He said, it's just another political hoax. Yeah? Things that are really bad. He's not capable of understanding ecology. He's not capable. He's capable of being greedy. And he thinks everybody else is greedy. So he thinks everybody else is making shit up just like him. Yeah? He sees it this way. This is his philosophical attitude in the world. Yeah? Yeah? The reason why he does what he does is because everybody's illegal, and he knows it. And that's why he says, I'm the cop. I'm the man of law and order, because there's no such thing. And he'll break laws left and right, and he'll try and get other people to break laws, because he knows that there's no such thing where he comes from in his mind as law and order. He has no conscience toward doing something illegal and getting someone else to do it and then have them take the fall. I can name 12 people right now who are off in jail or in the middle of a court system simply because they're taking a fall for this guy. Yeah? That's nothing compared to what's going to happen in the future. Yeah? So imagine these rays are affecting humanity. These rays are affecting humanity. And what is the ray package of this earth? And that's fourth ray. Fourth ray. Yeah? And the influence of the fourth ray is the influence of earth, harmony. You know, all the elements of earth made manifest, directed to God. First ray. Fourth ray, first ray. Yeah? Not fourth ray, third ray. Fourth ray, first ray. Yeah? So that's where the truth sits. And he's sitting in an illusion, a delusion, a compromising scenario of not having a soul, and all these kind of things are going on. But the truth is that he has a fourth ray personality, which is being hit by the first ray of God. And he's in a position as president. So he's not only got the third ray as an evil kind of person that manipulates money and all this kind of stuff and lies, but he also is on a delusion that he's a king. Yeah? That he's a messianic president, a messianic king. Yeah? And that's that first ray energy passing through him. Yeah? But it's not him. Yeah? It's the Lord. And he's being judged in position in a sacred place, so he could be surrounded by the most possibly complementary to me group of people that might be able to witness what this guy is and what he's doing and how that it expresses not just as his actions, but the influence of him being able to psychically influence terrorism on the street and create Antifa and other manifestations, that he's now saying there's some kind of psychic control creating this group. And I think it's Biden. Yeah? Where in reality, it's him. And we all know, most people don't know, they don't know that there is an ability for us in our thought form building to create circumstances. Now, if you're in a really evil spot and you've created really big, bad circumstances all your life, and they all turned out like shit, bad circumstances from casinos to cities. The city of New York does not want him back. They don't want him back. They don't want him back. The governor said no. Mayor said no. We don't want him back. Why? Because he's a liar and he stole from us and we want to put him in jail. That's what we want to do. If he's coming back, it's through extradition. Yeah. You know, so there is something heavy in that third ray, fourth ray that is surrounding him, which is God influence inside of humanity to wake up their fourth ray, to know that we need to take command over Earth. Yeah, we need to be responsible for our day-to-day actions. We need to develop the energy of the fourth ray in ourselves. Yeah, rather than see the glamour of fourth ray in a movie star or the glamour of a fourth ray in a person playing football. All those people who have those abilities, they're there because of strong elemental forces of the fourth ray. They can play basketball because of a harmonic connection inside themselves that allows them to play as a team and do what they need to do, even create war and strategy and all those things. That is very, very fourth ray. Yeah? And so that's a low fourth ray. That's a very low fourth ray. But on the higher level, the Constitution of the United States was made through the power of the first ray and the fourth ray. All first ray individuals who had first ray souls or personality wrote the Constitution of the United States and got the idea to make the Constitution of the United States. So when they initiated it as soul-filled people, creating a soul-filled constitution, which is a contract with God, and making it a binding so that it could become a law. Yeah? And those laws are part of human rights. So all of it was based on bringing the first ray into that Capitol building, putting an obelisk there, yeah? Because at the time, there was a lot of people who were in the, pretty high level of spiritual understanding, yeah? Thomas Jefferson, yeah? Adams, most of those, even Washington, had very high levels of spiritual understanding and sacred geometric and understandings of the pyramid or different things that brought about balance, harmony in a large constituting form, in a form of science, of God. So when they built Constitution, or not Constitution, but the Washington, D.C., they had to do it as a square. It had to be a cube, a Metatron's cube. Had to be a square, yeah? And then they had to create geometric patterns throughout the whole entire thing and section it off as a new state, Washington, D.C., it's its own state, yeah? Kind of like, our Pope, yeah, in its own state. But this is supposedly of the sacred side to bring about all the rays, first ray to the fourth ray, and bring about Shambhala. Yeah? So the whole focus of Washington, D.C. is bringing Shambhala on Earth, a governing body of Shambhala on Earth, through the magnifying quality that comes in from the planetary logos. So it's under one nation, under God. Yeah? And we have 50 states and all these kind of things, and they're all unified. We have a flag that sets in this state, in this way, that brings us into that consciousness. Yeah? All of the things that we do in our invocations bring us into fourth ray, first ray, yeah? Working out everything we have to do, but it has to be done in service, yeah? And so those are really the influences. The positions of a president is titulary. He's going to be there 8 years max, so it's titulary. The position of Washington, D.C. is not. It's set as a ceremonial, monastic expression under God. It's a monastic expression. It's not what we think. Yeah? It was designed by ministers of God, yeah, who wrote the preamble and wrote the Constitution and laid it down by law, and even eliminated the first president to become king or an emperor. They made him president. All initiated by high initiates, making choices and decisions that were soulfully made, yeah, by very rare individuals that were incarnated on Earth as a group. Yeah? And so our position is held in that way. And what we could do with that is that we can heal the nations. Yeah? Other evil beings, other evil forces can come and attack this place. Yeah? And instead of it becoming a horrible scenario, we transform it by creating a unified relationship with other nations and allies. Rather than standing alone, we create a unified nation, not just in ours, but in a collective body of nations, using the principles of the Constitution of the United States, democracy. And each nation has a right, and even if we go to war with them like Germany, we'll go in and we'll rebuild Germany. We'll go to war with Japan, we'll go back and we'll rebuild Japan. Yeah? No matter what we have done, it is our first ray, fourth ray, right relationship that gives us our actions. Yeah? And presidents and other people, they're titulary. They really don't make those decisions. These are made, constituted by the soulful energy of Washington. Yeah? Not the person, but the place. It has a soul. Yeah? And it's first ray, fourth ray. Yeah? So from that, we can deal with ecology. We can deal with this scenario and bring it about in a rapid change. Yeah? And it's going to happen. You know, but the difficulty is that we always are in a place, when it comes to the soul, darkness takes you to the edge, and you're not going to make it. And the water is over your nose, you know, and there's no way out, you know, and it's just dying right now. And then all of a sudden, a hand from nowhere comes and grabs you and pulls you through, even though there was no door, there was no window, but you're on the other side, taking a breath. And you can't figure it out, but shit like that happens all the time. All the time. Yeah? Because we're not in the world of God and the machine. We're not in that world. Yeah? We're in the heavenly world of an angelic reality, and we are impressed by the beautiful, meritorious reality of being saved by angels. Yeah? The influence of angels. Yeah? Not the influence of bad angels, but good angels. Yeah? So we're moving into a time, even though it looks bad, even though they're all building up nuclear and we've got a melting of the Arctic and we've got a president like Trump. It only gets worse before it gets better. It's just the way it is. I don't care what movie you've ever seen, it's always like that in truth. In your own real world, you can't find your keys until the last second. Yeah? And you find them where you first looked. God's messing with us, man. You know? It's just the way it is. It's timing. You know, there's a thing about timing. You get held up, you know, and you're complaining, you're going, I got to hurry, you know. But then, because of God's grace, angelic intervention, we don't die. We just missed a car crash. Yeah? We just missed our airplane flight, and a lot of people got sick, you know. Things that we don't know why it happens. We don't know the good outcome, even though it seemed like a terrible thing. Yeah? Because it always is getting worse before it gets better. So all that getting worse before it gets better is actually what makes it better. We just don't know that. We don't. We have no idea. But in truth, it is that. We always find that out after we die. We are shown what's gone on, We go, oh, really? Oh, shit. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have reacted like that. Oh, my God. Totally different. Yeah, oh, well. It is as it is. Yeah. Yeah, because there's a whole influence of our soul having transcendental reality. Yeah. And when it comes to our ability to get past this influence of coronavirus or anything like that, it's going to be based on the soul. And right now, we are very deeply being influenced by the evil spirit. Very deeply, yeah? And we have to come to grips with it. We have to stay calm. Yeah? We have to stay calm. It's the only thing we can do. Discern, discriminate, know that Jesus is on the planet. Yeah? Know that everything is being worked out. Yeah? And know that there's an overshadowing before the major, oh no, takes place. It doesn't happen. Yeah? It doesn't happen. There are things going on. We have history where we go, oh, all these extraterrestrials show up, What are they here for? Why are they here? What are they, just abducting people and doing all that stuff? Why are they here? But when you really study it, okay, you find out, when you actually study it, you find out that where they do show up is at nuclear power plants. Yeah? And they show up where they're developing nuclear warheads or have nuclear warheads or are going to shoot a nuclear warhead up. Yeah? And all of a sudden, these things little white dots start flying around, and then it won't fly anymore. Yeah? They've had many times where they witness UFO, and then every single one of the silos shut down. They don't work, and they're going, whoa, what's going on, And there is a controlling greater power when we're messing with technology, and you're dealing with extraterrestrials. They got it over us. Yeah? They got it over us. We, click, destroy the world. No. In a matter of seconds, it's click, no worky. Yeah? Yeah. Trust me, it really is going to be that way. They're not here, there are some weird ones, but trust me, there is a reality to, the advancements of Shambhala and the connection to what might save our ass in the end. And God's not leaving this up to just humanity to keep humanity from destroying themselves. Yeah. God has a greater amount of relationships than we consider. Yeah. And if you take in consideration, there are more extraterrestrials than there are, us alone, then the viability of the possibility of consciousness on that level, compassion, the rays, the understanding of God, and the willingness to be compassionate and effectively keep a planet from destroying itself. Yeah? The making of the Great Pyramids, the great amount of things that have happened on this planet were intervened upon scenarios. Yeah? Technologies and advancements that were moved onto this planet in order to raise the evolution of the planet against the counter-evolutionary forces that come from the Dark Lodge. So we all go, wow, what's that Great Pyramid about? Wow, we have so many temples. How come? None of us are interested in temples. Who built those things? Yeah? Yeah, it's because we have a counteractive force keeping us from God. And there was a time when that counteractive force was moved to the peak and shifted over to God through the avatar. And we built temples. And we create a protective field on earth that is activated and able to keep us safe even during this time while we're in Maya, during the Kali Yuga, a very, very dark cycle of time of incarnation, yeah, where we have someone like Trump. Yeah. So Trump if everything goes well, we won't have a Trump after November. If everything goes well, we'll have a lot of illegal scenarios, and we'll have a lot of lying, and we'll have a lot of pressure toward, revoting, and all that kind of stuff. But we will get rid of him. If he's voted out, we will get rid of him. And if we do that, then we are right on the edge of ability to continue making changes, by fostering as much solar, as much wind, as much giving to people toward small homes, moving out of places that are extremely hot, influence education into people to let them know that things are going to change over years, and that you may think it's a great idea to go to Phoenix right now where industry is building, but when it reaches 115 to 120, industry is moving. No one is going to want to move there. No industry is going to be there. So whatever it's doing now is not what it's going to be doing in the future. And that's the same in many, many, many places. The big city of New York and all these different locations, when they get into that 110, 115 and stay in that area for a long period of time, it will change everybody's life, their conditions to live. And we have to move. We have to help people make that understanding that, yes, this is happening. And what is bad this year, a record high bad, it's going to be even worse next year. So you don't like it here now, you might want to consider how you're going to get to a place that's not like this later. Because this is only going to get worse here. And that's the education we need to give people. Because right now, every governor and every mayor is lying to people, telling people we'll put misters out. We'll lower your, PG&E. We'll give you solar free. You'll have free electricity. You'll just have to stay inside forever, Put on all kinds of shield and wear a shield head mask and all this stuff, a lot of fun, But they'll recruit you to think that you can minimize, the amount of radiation, and all that, rather than just freaking moving. Head for the forest, where there's shade, where there's ions, where things live and exist and will continue living for millions of years. Fires happen, but it is nothing compared to being in an oven and trying to make your way through life in that way. So all of the future is going to be based on heat. It doesn't matter where you're at, if you're in England or if you're in Ireland, but especially in America, because we have a certain belt of influence over America that gives us Mojave and places like that to the hottest places on Earth. And that's going to affect so many, but Las Vegas is going to be done and over with. I mean, your feet are going to stick to the ground, as you walk. You're going to have to get feet that don't melt, shoes that don't melt, because you're going to be sticking, to the ground, Touch a car door, burn the crap out of yourself. It's reality in cities like that. And it's going to be like that in cities. So our change has to be consciously. We have to motivate a lack of that same third ray and a lack of that same manipulation of the fourth ray of people telling us that, it's going to get better. It's all a hoax. There's no such thing as bad ecological weather. It's going to go away. It's all a hoax. Where in our true self, we must come to understand what is really coming down so that we can begin to discern, discriminate. And then we could choose people that will facilitate, the making of these things, the industries, making of new technologies, making, a new way for people to live. Underground homes is a good idea at this point in time, I think. Monolithic gnomes is a really good idea. Half underground, above ground, those things, that's going to be our future. And it's not because we're afraid or anything, it's because we're smart. We can do all our garden, we can do everything, and live without the intense heat of any kind. and just by minimalism. But we need the education. Yeah. So if we get Biden, all of a sudden we're going to get a whole wall of information. Yeah. We just get enormous amounts of information. New group of world servers come out with books and videos and all kinds of do it yourself, build your house kind of thing, and people get motivated in watching the changes in social reform. And not in fear, but in being able to take responsibility, move out of this location, lower your expenses, live this life, and watch 5 years go by, and people that you left behind are suffering like crazy, and you're writing books to help them get out, You're videoing your life as you got to there. Because that's what's going to make a world change is the web, the internet, yeah? The use of YouTube and the use of sharing and caring, yeah? Not by people saying this is the way it's got to be because we're going to have a nuclear war, but by people making a discerning, soulful decision, a soulful decision, yeah? It's symptomatic. It has to move in these directions. It's symptomatic, yeah? There's not another direction, yeah? We only have one earth, and we have a very exacting way that we live our life. We eat, we sleep, we serve, yeah? And that's it. So it's not like we rich, we richer, and we were the richest. Yeah? None of those words are in there, yeah? We just are what we are, and we're glad that we're able to be so smart about it. Like in this guy's case, no intellectuality, no figuring out of anything, none of that. This is all about using your third ray. It's all about taking that Holy Spirit in and finding a path into your life and then help other people onto that path. And we all start developing what's known as a second ray, third ray, Christ-like quality. Yeah? Second ray, third ray. That's the Buddha and that's the Christ. Second ray, third ray. Yeah? And that's second ray soul, third ray personality. Yeah? And that's what is in every living human being as we become an initiate. We get blessed by Christ. And we can call him Buddha or we can call him Jesus. Yeah? Well, what you're going to get is a second ray, third ray. Yeah? It's like right now. You're receiving very evil forces from the third ray of Trump, fourth ray personality of Trump. Yeah? But you could be receiving the blessings that comes from Jesus, that is a second ray soul and a third ray personality. And that quality, those forces have the ability to save you from Maya. It unties every single curse that's placed upon you by the evil spirit. The same third ray, but it's in the Holy Spirit. And the second ray is the doctor, the teacher, that is able to step right into your shoes, untie your knots, and leave you alone, but just leave you free. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? So that's the influence. This is a real thing. It's not like we're going into a doomsday situation because of the scenario that we're in. It's really bad. Yeah. If you look at the coronavirus, that process is people are finding that the kids in school are getting sick, and that the teachers are getting sick, and that the schools have to close down, and that there's not a lot that they could do about it. Yeah, and that they're finding that the illness of children is not that they're that they are immune, but that they are occasionally not immune, and that if you take 1,000 children that got it, yeah, and out of that you would have around 400 that would end up in the hospital. That's a good number, yeah, and out of that you would have severe cases that would be right around 80 severe cases. And out of that, you would have 1 or 2 children die. Now, severe cases is horrible. And yet these are people who are supposed to be immune. According to our president, according to what the president says, his doctors say. Yeah. But the truth is, when we look at it, The statistics is that the kids are getting sick. Not in no way in the higher numbers, but yet teenagers from 15 to 40, yeah? They're 40% of the people who are dying. And it's only 55, 60% of people above that are dying. And still these same people who are at 40 down to 15, their ratio is that they're in the hospital, let's say 1,000 of them go in and they get infected. And 1,000 of them, these are teenagers up to 40 years old. And out of 1,000 of them, maybe around 300 end up in the hospital, and find themselves, in fairly serious but not full, but enough to be in the hospital. And then they get down to a point to where they are about 120, 130, where they're very serious, and 5, 10, and 15 are dying, And that means that teenagers and people that everybody was saying they're immune and chances are they're not going to die, they are. And why is it the other people are dying? Well, this is a hard world. When you reach 40 years old, you have got most of your arthritis, you've got most of your diabetes is in an unbalanced state and going in to wherever bad place it's going, it's heading out. Your heart condition has already began. Your situation of obesity has already developed for many, many, many years leading up to your 50th birthday. So you've been obese for quite a while, and you've been unhealthy for quite a while, and you've had a little bit of diabetes for quite a while. You have arthritis going on and inflammation throughout your body. This is common human conditions. It's not like someone saying, underlying conditions, they're dying of no, they're dying of being 50 years old. And it's not underlying. Everybody has these conditions. It's extremely rare that a person 50 and above doesn't have any of those, if not most of those conditions. Obesity and all these things, lung problems from smoking, all these things, normal in our society, with our system the way we are, and our lifestyle. That's what we're dying from. People who are 50 and above are dying from their lifestyle, but it's still they're dying from the coronavirus, where the president's trying to say 96% of these people didn't die of the coronavirus. So he's saying 190,000 people died, but actually only 1,200 of them died of the coronavirus. That's what he says. Only 1,200 died of the coronavirus. And the man's wacky-tacky. He's got somebody over here, telling him stuff that are really dangerous for us, And a long time ago, he said, I really think the only way we're going to heal this is through herd immunity. Herd immunity, He said, look at Norway or Switzerland or whoever did that, let's see how they turn out, And yet, on the side, he's always going, let's make this a herd immunity. Slow down the virus, slow down the testing. It's all a hoax. You don't need to wear your mask. He's saying that so that you'll get the virus. You don't need to wear a mask. Come on, come with me. Come with me to a large gathering. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let's open the schools up. Let's open them up right now. Let's open up businesses right now. He is doing herd immunity. He's not listening to anybody. He's in charge of this thing, and he's doing herd immunity. Now, I told you in the beginning, if someone chose to do herd immunity, we would have over 3.5 million people die. And that's science. I'm not making it up. It's science. If you take a relationship, a virus, a large virus that's very, very effectively getting into people, and you have 350 million people, a percentage of those people will be active. They'll get an active, positive response. And another percentage of those people will have severe response. Yeah? And another percentage of those people will die if you do nothing. Yeah? There's a automatic herd immunity response, yeah? But this isn't the flu, yeah? This isn't the flu. This is the coronavirus, and it actually gets to every organ in your body, and it actually slows down your circulation. It slows down your kidneys. It actually slows down your ability to maintain circulation to the point where you get blood clots and you lose limbs. You don't get that from the flu. Yeah? You don't get brain damage from the flu. Yeah? Your lungs don't turn into mush from the flu. Yeah? But it does with the coronavirus. It does. All the autopsies show this. All the lungs turn into mush. Yeah? Well, no matter who dies from it. Yeah? You may have died from arthritic condition that was through inflammation, and it moved on into your other areas and causing you worse and worse symptoms to death. But you were being eaten alive and dying in multiple ways due to the coronavirus. And you could see that in the autopsy. There's no connection to flu or pneumonia or anything else that we can say this is the cause of death, or even a heart attack, because there's all these other major symptoms that are manifested during the coronavirus. So herd immunity is a very, very bad idea. And if he is president for the next 4 years, we will live through herd immunity, and we will be pushed to take certain types of antibiotics, yeah, things that they believe is a vaccine, yeah, and and they're going to do this not in a free way. They're not going to do this in everybody gets it way. They're not going to do in any way that this guy's going to go, how can we make this done cheaply? And they're going to go, well, let's go to the old folks' homes. Let's start with them. They're probably going to, we'll get a real good review on that, And then we'll move to people who are already in the hospital, and we'll give it to them. And people who are coming in the hospital, and we'll give them to them. And maybe we'll give them to the teachers who we're forcing back to school. But I don't know, the kids don't need it, because they have immunity. Yeah. So what is the chance of us actually getting this? Yeah. On a whole level, in order to break it down, because the only way you can actually, if it's not herd immunity, then you have to give everybody the vaccine, and we shut it down. Yeah, or you live in this diluted area, believing what Trump is saying, that you can only get it once, and once you've got it, you're immune. But what we're finding from China, what we're finding from Spain, what we're finding from other countries and America, is that many people have gotten it the third time. The third time. Yeah? So there's no such thing as immunity to it. Yeah? And it changes. It changes into a different type. Yeah? So we're dealing with having been pushed through herd immunity rather than properly being dealt with properly, state to state, with control, with understanding, shutting it down completely. All could have been done over a 1 to 2 month period. Yeah? Yeah? And that's not utopian, that's not idealistic. That's what happens in other countries and what should have happened in ours and will have to happen in order to shut it down. Yeah? Because there's just no way that we can just believe that the virus alone is going to be stopped by giving an antibiotic or some kind of vaccine that will cure us, when the chances are it will continue in its process. And we have to shut it down by shutting it down, by allowing it to go from one host to the other. Yeah? Because it's through the host that this thing keeps going. Yeah? So with Biden, I think we have that chance. I think we have a large mass of people, scientists and everybody, that would work very hard, a lot of money put into it, a lot of universities focused upon it, a lot of industries focused upon it, not focused upon just making this and that, but only focused upon this scientific approach of saving the world from what's happening now and the fact it's going to continue happening, and we have to be ahead of viruses and contain them. The very first time it comes out, we have to put that person in an enclosed system and keep it an enclosed system, and find every single person that met that person over the last 3 or 4 weeks and put them into isolation until we can prove that they don't have it. We have to be extremely restrictive in the approach of being able to shut this down. And a person like Biden and people in science, all know this truth, and we could pull it off. We can pull it off. We can't push kids to school. We can't keep meat being produced, in all the ways that we're doing things. We have to really shut things down. You're going to have to start growing plants and grow your own animals if you want to eat them. Go out fishing if you want to go eat, It's a lifestyle change, and we're going to go into this lifestyle that's going to last forever. And it's our choice. It's the soul. We all battle the soul. And not one of humanity is up and ready to, fully integrate with their soul. They got all kinds of things going on. But this is everybody. Everybody is being overshadowed to get their soul. And in order to do that, the lunar lords that are impressing upon you in this outside ray energy that you don't even know exists, they're impressing upon you rays that are a part of your rays, that introduce into you a recruiting unnatural quality, that are vices and glamours, substituting qualities of virtues and understanding and ability of empathy and compassion. So there's no empathy, no compassion coming out of this channeled being that we have as our president of the United States. All of his lies and illusion and everything is harmful to our etheric body, to the planet's etheric body, But the etheric body of the planet has prana. And if we gather together in like-mindedness, we create a Sangha. And we include the President of the United States in the Sangha. But we also oust the President of the United States if he's not in the Sangha. Does that make sense? It's not, this is a church or anything. It's just that there is a reality of the first 3 initiations, and that is the creation of the Sangha. And that is like-minded, high-minded individuals absolutely connected to their higher mind, their higher emotions, and their betterment toward humanity. Those 3 vehicles. And as each and every one of those things grow, they grow because they're receiving from each person around them the soul ray energy that's in them, and the personality ray that's integrated in them begins radiating out. And we begin influencing the planet as a collective body, as a Sangha. And that, it doesn't matter if a person is got a gun and looks like they're in the military and ready to kill. The light of the Sangha has the ability to literally get this person to put the gun down, leave the gun at home, have a sense of conscience, have dreams, see their child being shot, see things that they don't want to see, because there is a God. And that God uses seeing the future and events that are horrifying, that are under the conditions that you are bringing about. And you are the cause of these things. And you see those things in visions or your conscious mind, or you see it in dreams. And that changes these people. And that's what the Sangha does to people. It gives people visions and impressions in order to change their perspective and their actions so that humanity, just like your grandmother, your mother, all those people don't die of the virus simply because you don't have a conscience enough to know you need to stay at home and keep yourself clear. Yeah. So all of that is due to this third ray, second ray, whether or not we wear masks, whether or not we choose the right president, whether or not we get through this thing. It's all about the overshadowing that's taking place right now in every living person, including the president. And his day has come. Yeah. These are very, 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 very powerful period. And he's going to get so angry and so frustrated and so freaked out over his opponent. I mean, he's got to say things that are so overwhelmingly nutty, yeah, in order to have something to say negative so that you won't vote for his opponent. Yeah. And with his process, all of those things have to be animated aspects of himself he's talking about. And obvious things that are not in Biden. Never have been, not a characteristic, not a past. Yeah. But he cannot see another person. He can only see the reflection of his bias. If he sees a black person, doesn't matter what the black person is or who their name is, how wealthy they are or anything like that. He still sees the bias of a black person. He can't get beyond it. Yeah. Oh, look there, a black man. We got a black man in here. Aren't we lucky? What? Who talks like that? Who even thinks like that? Yeah. But he's so biased against everybody, everything, because he has no ability to empathetically see things from a truthful standpoint, with love, with understanding. Yeah. It's all with bias, all with that third ray turning everything in a downward spin. Yeah. So when he says something mean. Yeah. When he says, I want these people killed, I want the death penalty brought back, I want to see people die, I want to be just like China or Korea. We're going to control this thing just like China and Korea, He's going to say shit like that, yeah? And people have to identify with their collective Sangha of, well, I'm not Chinese, and I don't want to do that, yeah? And yet there's something inside them, that third ray, fourth ray, that enjoys a good hanging, yeah? Enjoys being a pedophile, yeah? Enjoys doing the things they do that have no compassion. It's those people who follow him, yeah? And they don't want anything to make that change, yeah? They like the ability to womanize and treat women in a terrible way and treat people in a terrible way and all the things that you can possibly imagine, It's all third ray, fourth ray turned downwards toward the earth, the evil spirit going into the earth. And that makes the evil spirit come out of the earth. So it invokes into people to do what they're doing. Like all the things that are... How often did we have riots, that we have today? We didn't. Things were kind of like chilled. On a very rare occasion, we would have a scenario to where a black person was killed in a very bad way by police officers and nothing was done about it. We would definitely come up against that. Yeah? But no Antifa, no big deal like it is today. There is a conspiracy ideology that's moved into this to make the impression of them being here normal. Yeah? They're rioting. They're a bunch of this and that. But that's his normalness. That's his Sangha. That's his way of putting out an expression into humanity. So it devalues everybody in a collective consciousness. And it keeps people thinking, just like his reporter lady, she could just really spill it out there. But she's a 3/6. You know, so she has a perfect ray package for someone who is the disciple to Lucifer. You know, just loves the shit out of the guy. You know, but in a way to where she's there as not just a cheerleader, but the only intellectual that could express for him. You know, in a way to where you would have to be very, very, very intellectual to get over her. Because she gets on you with an intellectual pride. Yeah, because she has very strong third ray, sixth ray. She's been doing this all her life. Yeah. And so that influence hits the people who are out there in, you know, trying to ask a question, you know, trying to get an answer. Now they've got this creep that is a third ray, sixth ray, direct representative of the third ray, fourth ray, and she wants you to devote to his actions with her sixth ray personality. Join me. We're all a religious cult here. And they all are a religious cult. Every single one of them has joined a religion. They have a religious leader in the office. You know, it's all a religious cult. You know, so it's extremely sixth ray. Just like this person. And if you're not devoted to him, you're fired. So you have to prove sixth ray qualities in order to stay in the office with the guy. Just like that guy with the glasses that, you know, I don't know, Pompeo? Is that him? The fat guy with the glasses? Yeah. Huh? Oh, yeah, William Barr, yeah. Yeah. He's about as sixth ray as you can get. Yeah. Yeah. He's got a sixth ray 3. Yeah. The different to the girl, you know. But he's an attorney. He's a lawyer, you know. So he stands in the sixth ray and says, I'm the judge. I'm the guy that makes this happen. I'm the guy who's in charge here. Because this is a sixth ray society. We go under the police because they're sixth ray. We go to the court because it's sixth ray. We go into prison because it's sixth ray. We go into military because it's sixth ray. Yeah, we go play basketball, baseball. We go to college. We go to high school because it's sixth ray. Yeah, so everything that we put loyalty to, we are brought to that loyalty through the sixth ray. We have to be loyal to sixth ray, to our church, to our priest, to our coach, you know, to mom, to dad, you know. But it has nothing to do with love or God or anything like that. It's sixth ray, yeah? And that leads you to this guy, who is a 3-4, yeah? And it, you know, as a leader, you know, he just usurps. He's like the guy who says slavery. I don't see why we would ever have a civil war. I don't see what that was for. That's what he said. I really don't see any real reason for the Civil War. I don't think it should have happened. He said that. How can you say that unless you're saying, you know, I like a slave. You know, a Mexican slave, a black slave, an Asian slave. And if you just tell the truth, that's what would come out of you. Because when you look at them, when you see certain people, you see your history. And these were your slaves. Yeah? The Asian, the Mexican, the black person, they were your slaves. There's no way you worked for a Mexican. There's no way you worked for a black person. There's no way you worked for an Asian. You would have hung them up with pride and anger and hostility. That's our history. All based on this third ray, fourth ray, reincarnated asshole that triggers us to be like that. The guy who invented slavery, yeah, and recruits everybody to live in it. Yeah. All right, so let's pray and see if we can clear this thing up a little bit. Wow. I have a darshan coming up. I think is it the 12th or the 13th? The 12th, yeah. September the 12th, and we're in September, so I should be talking about it. It's a one-day darshan. It's going to go on all day. I can talk forever, yeah. I mean, you can't. If I could just sit here and teach, I would. You know, I really like it, yeah. But hey, only so many people want to listen, and so I'll let it be. But I'm going to give a full day of teaching, and you've experienced through my meditation teachings what it is to attend a darshan, because every single one of them is a darshan. Anytime I sit down, it's a darshan, and I don't have common everyday conversation. Yeah, well, what I teach is has a fluid to it. It has a purpose behind it. It is goal oriented to save you. Yeah, and it's all, there isn't a word, there isn't an action that isn't being moved by your need. Yeah, and then I'm moved immediately in order to bring about your ability to make that change. Yeah, so that's my job. That's what I do. I'm the midway point. I'm the teacher. Yeah, so in darshan, I can't really say what I'm going to teach about. Yeah, because it all depends. But there is an enormous amount of influence coming in from both Native American and Tibetan influences simultaneously, and both having very, very powerful empowerments taking place right now. Yeah, by knowing me, yeah, knowing the auspiciousness of my incarnation and the furtherance of each nation. Yeah, whether it be the Native Americans or the Native Tibetans. Yeah, and that the influence of their soul being the human race, the influence of people as a group, both of these people have within them, large masses of initiates, yeah, and many of them from previous lives, grandfathers, grandmothers, and then they do reincarnate, but they find themselves in poverty, and they find themselves in a terrible scenario, and they live very short lives. And then after a while, they reincarnate in outside of the native body, because they have to reincarnate, and they find themselves in an Italian body, and they got to make it back to America somehow, and we build America. Now we're 350 million. We used to be almost that in Native Americans. So there's a reincarnated reality, and the same with Tibetan Buddhism. The people of Tibet were many, many, many millions of people, and now they're down to a very small fraction of that number of people. And yet they do reincarnate. And so this process of their awakening has to do with awakening a majority of humanity's chakras to move in the right directions. And it's all a matter of whether or not that level of group can move in that direction. Because there's a lot of, imagine you got Tibetans that are going, well, I got to go with the Dalai Lama. I don't know about this American Buddha Maitreya. And then a large majority go, well, I do know about that American Buddha Maitreya, and I'm definitely going to stick with that, but I don't want to be, thinking I'm against anything, I would rather, but in the Dalai Lama scenario, many would go, well, it's either one or the other, you can't have both, and, so, and that was pretty clear to same with the Native American, it was difficult for them to make a jump, to be able to recognize someone who is not necessarily born directly in the tribe, even though my father was Blackfoot, my mother was Cherokee. It's still, we're in a time to where Native Americans have a hard time believing in, those who are born outside the tribe, that don't have full blood, or not born in this particular tribe, so that you can be of that tribe. There's no such thing. Not where I come from. There's no such thing. It's about reincarnation. And in the reality of reincarnation, we need to use our higher facilities to come to recapitulate and recognize people. So like in Tibetan Buddhism, I'd furthered many tukus to be incarnated outside of Tibet and to be openly accepted and brought back and be put back on the throne and continue their education and flourish in teaching the Dharma. And that same thing is going to happen in Native Americans. Their ability to accept reincarnation, their ability to understand that there is not one of the great ancient ones that isn't walking around right now. We need to settle down and start looking, starting now. And I could do that. I can do that in Tibetan Buddhism. I've done that there. And I could do that in the Native American nation. It takes time. I have to sit, I have to meditate, I have to study, but I come up with an exact who this person is. I know exactly who a person is. It's just not like, some psychic thing. It really takes a lot of bringing information in, then visions begin happening, and circumstances start coming together to where it becomes an obvious recognition. And then when the tuku comes along, you give the last opportunity to the tuku to recognize certain things only the teacher knows that tuku knows. And then the tuku begins comment on things that are questions or circumstances. And once that's cleared, there's no question about whether or not this person is reincarnated and ready to recapitulate. So I believe that's going to happen in both the two simultaneously, that over the next 20 years, the two nations, the Tibetan and the Native American, will blend together and begin educating each other in the process of recapitulation and how similarities there are, because in reality they're the same people. The one used to live over here, and the one across the land strait and came over here, and now they live in North America. So, but they used to be over here, and they look like Indians, So their reality is that they are the same race of people from the same ancient cycle of awakening, And on this side, that happened 40,000 years ago, when that orientation came in, and the number of people that were here. So over that whole 40,000 year period, there's been separation and ways in which this one grows and the ways in which that one grows. And this one was in America with no furtherance of anything other than Native American telepathy, bridged to those over here. And a rainbow bridge was created that gave this group awakening enlightenment in nature, gave them spiritual awareness to animals and things, and they were guided, but they were guided by their elders that were over there across the ocean in another land. And they were high initiates in the third and fourth and fifth initiation. And they would many times reincarnate in cycles like that. They come back, and great masters from over here would incarnate into the Western and become prophets. And they would save the nation of many terrible things, like Hiawatha and others. And they would just dissipate, into the wind and be gone. And they'd be found again as a great tuku in Tibet. So all of that scenario of our hierarchy between now and 2050 is going to be an awakening externalization process, where Tibetans come over here, they start meeting, they have meditations, and they actually break away from old ways into new ways, having absolute faith in the process of integration between personality and soul, between two nations, personality and soul. So that's a little teaching on that one. So, all right, you ready? I'm going to do this invocation first, and then I'm going to do the prayer for Jesus. Okay, we're going to do the invocation of I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of your ashram, soul, and monad. And then we'll do the prayer. Okay, just repeat after me. I invoke the power, the love, and wisdom of my ashram, soul, and monad. To guide me into the right activity in the plan. To clarify and stimulate my mind. To transform and transmute my feelings and emotions. To energize and vitalize and heal my physical and etheric body. So there is a normal flow of energy in my physical and etheric body. Through this day and every day, I ask this in the name of the Christ to serve the One. All in the name of the Mother, the Father, and the Christ. Amen. Okay, repeat after me. Lord Jesus Christ, thank you for bringing me here. Lord Jesus Christ, I open my heart today. I invite you to come inside. Come inside, Lord Jesus Christ, and save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you, my spirit, my soul, my body. Receive me, Jesus Christ. Now, devil, the blood of Jesus is against you. I command you now to leave me. I do not belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself from you. I renounce every evil covenant I have entered in with you. In Jesus' name, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. soul. I invoke the sense of hearing in the seventh ray, hearing the word of God, the word of power. I invoke the sense of touch and the first ray as the finger of God. I invoke the sense of sight as the third ray, as the eye of God. I invoke the sense of taste as the sixth ray, as the desire of all the nations. I invoke the sense of smell as the fourth ray, the beauty of revelation. I invoke the sense of intellect as the fifth ray, as the knowledge of God. I invoke the sense of intuition as the second ray, the understanding of God. I call upon the synthesis of the seven rays to be expressed through your personality. As the first ray of ideas, the mental body, the purpose, your life. Second ray of ideals, the astral body and your quality. The third ray of idols, your physical body and your form. The fourth ray of the fourth kingdom of humanity in balance. The fifth ray, the third kingdom, the animals. The sixth ray, the second kingdom, vegetables. The seventh ray, the first kingdom, minerals. I call upon the relationships of all the kingdoms to penetrate personality of humanity and express its collective soul. The seventh ray and the fourth ray as the mineral kingdom. The second ray, the fourth ray, and the sixth ray as the vegetable kingdom. The third ray and the sixth ray as the animal kingdom. The fourth ray and the fifth ray as the human kingdom. The fifth ray and the second ray as the egoic soul. The sixth ray and the third ray as planetary lives. The first ray and the seventh ray as solar lives. Penetrate the planetary, to bring forth the geomantic relationships of the soul, to integrate the egoic ray and the personality ray of each nation, and to express its true expression, to make manifest peace on earth as one living body of God. I call upon India to bring forth its fourth ray of personality and to integrate its first ray of soul to manifest the hidden light. I invoke China to bring forth its third ray personality to integrate its egoic soul into its first ray, to manifest as the indication of the way. I invoke Germany to bring forth its first ray of personality, to integrate its egoic soul of fourth ray, to preserve the truth. I invoke France and its third ray personality to integrate its fifth ray of egoic soul to release the light. I invoke Great Britain and its first ray personality and its second ray egoic soul to bring forth its service. I invoke Italy and its fourth ray personality to integrate its sixth ray soul to carve the two paths. I invoke the United States and its sixth ray personality to integrate its second ray soul to light the way. I invoke
integrate its seventh ray soul, to link the two ways. I invoke Australia and its fifth ray personality, to integrate its fourth ray soul and serve the lighted way. I invoke Spain and its seventh ray personality, to integrate its sixth ray soul, to disperse the clouds. I invoke Brazil and its second ray personality, to integrate its fourth ray soul, to hide the seed. I invoke the entity of this planet, the planetary logos, to incarnate the life and the beingness of this planet. I invoke the expression of the second ray force into both the personality and the egoic rays of the nation, and the personality of the egoic ray of humanity, to fuse itself and its light into its healing process. I invoke the esoteric law of solar energy to make manifest the cosmic force of light, love, and peace.
Okay, just relax. Okay, open your eyes. So, the rays are a bit of a difficult thing for people to get their heads around. They're directly related to our chakras, and our chakras are directly related to our spirituality. They're known as spiritual centers, and they express the 7 rays that come from the Lord. And on a healthy side, they are exactly what the rays of the Lord are sitting in. Say I'll show you this picture. The healthy side, you see the first ray sits at the crown, and the fourth ray sits at the base. And you see a line that goes upward, and it goes fourth ray up to the crown. These are pranic, complementary processes where in nature, the earth is a reflection of heaven. Yeah? And that's why when we look at earth, we're actually looking at heaven. Yeah? It's its physical form. It's a planet called heaven. Yeah? And then if we look at the next chakra, that's just above the sacral center, that's the 7th ray, and that one goes up to the throat center, to the 3rd ray. And the seventh ray is a relationship center. And that is all of the animals, all the vegetables, all the minerals, the water, the gases, the air, everything that makes up matter. It all is organized. Yeah, if we look at it really closely, we could see that it's built in geomancy and that everything works in that way. So by nature, every single thing is created under the seventh ray and the third ray. And that creates heaven on earth. Yeah, so we start seeing molten mass turn into liquid oceans, and we see mass turn into, after billions of years, into animals and vegetables and different levels of creation. And that's the manifestation of the earth's spiritual chakras. Yeah, and they're evolving. And then, after a long period of time, there comes animals that have the ability to communicate. Yeah, and this starts with insects, ants, birds, flowers, everything. But animals specifically have the ability to communicate with the flowers, with the plant kingdom. And they utilize, like birds and the bees, they utilize the relationship of life that's found in the beginning of ceremonial magic, in the chakras, spiritually. There's a spiritual connection between every kingdom. There's a spiritual connection between the animal and the vegetable. And all the animals need the vegetables, yeah? And they require that right relationship. They can smell, they have high senses in order to be able to dig down in the dirt, to dig up the roots, to pick out things, and that they're doing is all part of sensory development. The senses, yeah? The plants have senses. They can hear sounds, and they're moved and evolved from sounds and light and color, yeah? So they have a direct response to the outside environment. All plants do. Minerals have the same thing. Minerals have direct resonating response, vibratory response that emanates from them and emanates into them. And they communicate from one rock to another, one mineral to another. Yeah? All of this is done through a natural etheric field. Natural etheric field. And it's all put together inside a spiritual reality through the chakras. Yeah? So that's just the seventh ray connecting to the third ray, and then the sixth ray connects to the heart. And that's when animals start communicating with all the different levels. Yeah? And they evolved out of being a dinosaur into being great big birds and Tyrannosaurus Rex and all those big things into much, much smaller things. So now the dinosaurs are birds. And this process of evolution is happening because they're all going in an upward spin. They're moving upward. Yeah? They're migrating to heaven. Everything migrates to heaven. Yeah? Yeah? The only reason why the lower evolutionary part of dirt and everything else is even manifesting any form of life because it's migrating to heaven. And it's receiving that spirit into its own cells, and it's receiving communication as to what to do to migrate to heaven and how to create an evolutionary bridge between heaven and earth. Yeah? It's constantly going on. Yeah? So then we get to 6-2, and that orients us from animal to human. We actually come into the human form, and we start having spiritual connections with the animals and with the vegetables. And we look up, and we can see it in the stars, and we can see it in constellations, and we can identify with geomancy, and that opens up one chakra that's not connected to any other chakras, the brow center, the fifth ray, and it's the science of geomancy, the science of the stars. Connecting the whole thing together is revelation. And it's only through that brow could you witness God after God created everything. If God was to stand before you, you would know the difference between that being and all other things. Yeah? You wouldn't think it's, oh, the goat is God. Yeah? You would know the difference between all things and God. Yeah? That's what the evolutionary process is about. That's in a healthy being. It prepares us for God. Doesn't do anything to keep us away from God, but prepares us. But on an unhealthy side, now you look where the fallen angel has popped in, and they begin recruiting this side of the healthy side to fall. And it has a downward spiral to it. And you can see the line going down. And it starts off where the first ray is no longer connected to the fourth ray, harmony or earth. It's connected to enslaving the kingdom of earth, enslaving it. All the minerals, all the oils, all the people, all things is owned by this creature. This creature thinks it's the only living controller of all domains. Yeah, is this creature, the human being. It just completely sees nothing, no God. As far as it's concerned, it is the demigod. And it owns everything, and everything usurps to it. So all of a sudden, that seventh ray that used to be a relationship, how we would relate to everything, it turns that fifth ray that used to be in the brow, that would give us the ability to reveal and see and feel God. It's gone. And now we think we're God. And that fifth ray goes down to the sacral center, and we get the impression as being children of fallen angels. And it stays with us. And we go to our solar plex, and we want that solar plex to have a healthy relationship, but the heart is going down. So it only creates a lack of self-esteem. If you're black, you're identified as being black. And that's who you are. You're pegged. That fifth ray is in your sacral center, and now you are in a box. And you are labeled. And you can't get out of it. If you're a woman, you're a woman. If you're a man, you're a man. If you're a horse, you're a horse. Whatever you are, you're pegged. But now you're pegged in relationships to biases to human beings. Certain human beings have bias. And now you can look at animals and you can say, I can genetically mutate this thing to better serve me. Like I can make this little kitty cat have long legs and a striped tail and a long neck and no hair. Because I would like to have a kitty cat that looks like that. Yeah? And we are the evil force that allows such a thing to take place. Rather than what would happen normally, which is leave the cat alone. Yeah? There are no such things as kitty cats, people. They don't live in the wild. They have been bred into making these things called cats. Most of the dogs have been bred into the dogs that you have. They're not dogs. Yeah? Even a thoroughbred is rare. Yeah? And it certainly shouldn't be sitting in your house. Yeah? It should have its own life. And there should only be so many, or they can't be happy. Yeah? Yeah? So there's this whole thing on being the human being who's the caretaker. Yeah? And understands all these things. And that's where that seventh ray goes back up into the throat center. Yeah. That's that first initiation, is what is our relationship to every kingdom on earth? What is our relationship? And how do we bring balance to it, not harm? How do we not be any of these other chakras that are in the wrong place, thinking we own the earth or we own people? Yeah? That first one, that seventh ray down at the base, literally makes you be so prejudiced that you think you own things. Yeah? And then the next one comes up, and the next one comes up. And these all develop glamours and establish certain qualities that makes us receptive to false prophets, people who project qualities that have nothing to do with the heart, but everything to do with the sixth ray. We have no defining teachers that are of the second ray. We have all defining teachers of the sixth ray. So it's really hard to step out of that, because when the chakras go down like that, it takes that seventh ray with it. And to have a higher mind requires an enormous amount of study. Yeah? To really study. To become a doctor, to become a master at anything, you've got to study. And you got to be really focused on that study. And then you got to branch out in order to increase that study to make it more of a much wider ability to see it in its true picture rather than a smaller picture. And when you do things like that, you're developing the second ray. Because the second ray studies. It doesn't assume. It cares enough to study and know that it doesn't know. The one thing it knows the most is that it doesn't know. But it can. It can understand. Yeah? So the second ray is moved toward understanding, and to do that, it has to use the Holy Spirit and get that third ray to get that sacral relationship to find the truth and get out of the base. No matter how hard it is, even if it means you're going to flunk every test in school, like I did. Simply because I studied in the library rather than in my class. And I found out it was not anything they said in the history book. It didn't happen. Anything. You know, even the characteristic of President Lincoln or the relationship of who founded America or any of those things. You study far enough, you'll find, geez, you know, there's been at least 12 other people who have been found to come to America, and maps that have been completely laid out in years way before 1492. How could there be maps if they hadn't found America? You know? You know, when you're only 6 years old, that kind of hits you. And they're trying to teach you, you know, that Columbus, you know, remember this, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, you know. Could not swim, he could not float. I love that one. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never tried to remember anything, because I always found when I got to the library, I was better off studying and having an open mind, knowing that I didn't know and they don't know, but it's a good question. Who did discover America? And that was a lifelong research. That took a long time, you know. And now I have an enormous amount of information, an enormous amount that could be gathered together. Lots of things have been gathered together because of it. Because I'm not sticking myself into this illusion. Now, second ray does that. And the second ray automatically transmits a third ray into humanity, because it's the natural ray influence that comes from Christ. Is that what merit you receive, what wisdom you attain, is transmitted to everyone. Yeah, everyone. And that's what a bodhisattva is. Yeah, they're not here to sacrifice themselves, but they're there to attain wisdom, and then through meritorious compassion and empathy, that wisdom is transmitted through prana, through these chakras. By them going up like that, they move everybody else's chakras up, and it literally redeems them from this process of having their chakras going down like that and manifesting into the world the kind of world that we have. And all of that is changed, you know, by the relationship of these rays. Yeah? So just take it easy. You know, don't worry about the sixth ray too much, because this is the time of a change, you know, and we are coming into a society that is strongly based on the seventh ray, and we're coming out of a society that was strongly based on the sixth ray. Yeah, so as we're moving into the seventh ray, we're actually coming in to an unfoldment of historical truths that are covered up, you know, as the, you know, like who discovered America, you know, and is Jesus a Buddhist, you know, all these things that are true as true could be and easy to understand. You have to understand these things in order to have truth. Yeah? But if you're walking around in separation thinking that Buddha and Jesus are totally two different directions, one believes in God and one doesn't believe in God. If you don't have this kind of influence going on where the second ray and third ray is influencing you, yeah, but you're being influenced more by Lucifer, that's moving the third ray, telling you a lie, and then manifesting all kinds of whatever, books and information and strategy. Yeah, because imagine all our anthropology, archaeology, things that were found in science, if they were up against religion, and religion said, that American Indians just simply were barbarians and they didn't know anything of science. So there's no way they could have had a calendar. There's no way that they could be working with things like clocks. There's no way they could have built long and hard structures that are really big with cities. No way that they did farming and things like that. No way were they 25 feet tall at times. Yeah? No way. Every time they came across something, they had to literally erase it. They had to dig it up and destroy it. Yeah? So we don't have archives of this stuff. It all went in to the seventh ray going down to the base and taking what we find and burying it or destroying it rather than showing it and understanding it and finding out that in America are highly civilized people that we're learning from, highly evolved civilized people, and they're not at all the way they're presented. And the only way we can keep them the way we want to present them is by never presenting the truth. And that truth was never presented until just about 30 or 40 years ago, when they started digging up these mounds and looking at these places in Mississippi and other areas. Yeah. So, but it took a lot to heal the anthropologists and the sociologists and the archaeologists from following the dogma of their ancestors, of having destroyed these things. And these things are still being found all over the world. Yeah. So it's a matter of alleviating that seventh ray being at the base and turning the seventh ray to the sacral center so that when these people go out to do what they're doing it with soulful intention. And they have credibility and morals and ethics. Yeah? They have compassion toward the dead. They have empathy toward the dead. They see this as a sacred site. They see the mound as a sacred site. And when they study it and they talk to the people, they find out, holy shit, the giants were demons. And they were eating people. And they were cannibals. And they were wiping away tens of thousands of people. And it took them over 20,000 years to take down the last one. Yeah? And they were all over the earth, these giants that were eating people and killing people and massively creating chaos on earth. Yeah? And we have history of thinking dragons and all kinds of things like that. But we can look at David as knocking out a giant, And that was a true story. And that was just one event of many events that have gone on earth. Yeah? And they're all covered up in the process of these chakras being moved in the way that they've been. So as we get more spiritual, the truth will be unveiled. And we'll still have anthropologists and archaeologists, but they'll have morals. They'll have ethics. And they'll dig up more things. They'll come up with more information. And we will begin to change the nation's chakras to be represented in a sacred, responsible way. Because our history is sacred. Our history is sacred. We wiped out demons. We did a darn good job of it. And we need to be able to recognize ourselves as people who are warriors against extreme all odds against us. Yeah? And we've made it through it. No matter what has gone on, we've made it through it all the way to this point. And we have much more to do. And these demons of large size reincarnate in smaller forms like assholes like Hitler. Yeah, and they're still the same demon. And we have to keep ourselves straight. So we have morals and ethics and understanding. So we don't get knee-jerked into the delusions that these people are psychically projecting, because they're powerful. They're powerful. They're incarnated giants that are in little bodies. That's why they act like they're giants, bigger than anybody, better than anybody. Yeah? And it's because they're demigods. Yeah? And now they've been whittled down to being little red-haired, freaky, orange-faced creatures. Yeah. Or people like Michael Jackson, just getting skinnier and skinnier and looking like a vampire and then die. They're just slowly but surely from being an enormously big thing to being what they are in this life and how they're going to end. Yeah. So that's it.